everyone. I will call the March 20, 2023 meeting of the Woodbridge Board of Education to order at 7:02 p.m. with a reminder to all those watching and participating remotely to kindly mute your microphone to avoid any background noise. This meeting is being held as a hybrid meeting consistent with Connecticut Public Act 22-3. The public may attend in person or electronically via WebEx. This meeting is being recorded and the recording will be available on the district website. Take the roll. Maria Madonna, present. Jay Daya,
Present.
Brooke Hopkins, present. Jeff Hughes,
Present.
Stephen Lawrence,
Present.
Michael Strambler,
Present.
Sarah Beth Del Prete is not present, and she what? She's going to join them in a moment online. When we see her, we'll acknowledge her. And Erin Williamson is absent this evening on Olympiatic. Staff in attendance this evening: Ms. Vonda Tenza, Superintendent; Ms. Donna Coonan, Director of Business and Operations; Ms. Carrie Borcherding, Director of Special Services, remotely; Ms. Annalisa Sherman, Principal; Mr. James Sapia, Assistant Principal; and Ms. Marcia DeGennaro, Clerk of the Board, remote.
And Lynn, Sarah Beth joined at 7:03.
Thank you. Hi, Sarah Beth. I'd ask everyone to please stand and pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you. Correspondence. Marcia, I don't believe there's any correspondence that has been put into board book. Is that correct?
I did not receive anything.
Sarah Beth, did you get anything? That's a shaking of the head no. Thank you. Public comment. If you have public comment to make, would you please raise your hand in the participants list? I don't see any hands raised. No public comment this evening. PTO update. A written report from the PTO can be found in board book. I encourage the public to access the report. Hi, Rushi. Anything you want to highlight this evening?
Yeah, I was like, let me talk today. Yeah, I just sorry, good evening. In addition to the written report that I submitted, I just want to take this moment because it's like April and June is not far. So believe it or not, we start prepping for the next year, even at PTO's front. So unimaginable, right? So I want to just appeal to any parents, guardians, and also the teachers to be part of PTO, bring in ideas. This year, we have tried to live by the example of trying new ideas while continuing all old traditions. So hopefully, community members are like more excited to be part of this dynamic PTO for the next year. So we welcome all. And I also want to thank Wanda because she agreed to come to our next PTO meeting as an informal meet and greet with the community and stay then for a math night for a short while. So, yeah, we are looking forward to that. And I try not to leave anyone on my written report, but I want to publicly express my gratitude for all the Beecher administrators, staff, teachers, facilities, veto team, North Office, cafeteria for being like really so welcoming and helpful. Like as a PTO board, we can plan 1,000 things, but without this two-way collaboration, nothing is possible. And I'm definitely not forgetting the parent community. Without them, if they don't come and attend, then also we are in a trouble. So all the smiles and like all the thanks and it all makes all the work seamless and meaningful. So thank you all. I just wanted to add this. Thank you.
Rushni, thank you so much. And we feel the same way. The parent community, their support is so appreciated by all of us. And thanks for all you do too.
Thank you.
Moving on to number 2 on the agenda, the consent agenda. The minutes from the February 27th regular meeting are included in this evening's consent agenda, along with the budget narrative, a budget summary, the detailed financial report, and the combining financials. Does anyone on the board wish to extract anything from tonight's consent agenda for discussion? Seeing none, may I have a motion to accept the consent agenda? Maria?
I move the approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Do I have a second to that motion? Stephen? Motion made by Maria Madonic, seconded by Stephen Lawrence. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you. It's unanimous, Marcia. Moving on to reports. First on the agenda is our board member appreciation. I'm going to turn it over to you, Ms. Tenza.
Thank you. I'd like to let our first select woman, Beth Heller, address the board first. It's an honor to have her join us tonight, and I'm sure she has a few words to share with us.
I will read the proclamation. There's a lot of whereases, so be patient. I'm sorry. Whereas an excellent public school system is vital to the quality of life in this community and fundamental to preserving a strong democratic society now and in the future, and public schools are being held to higher standards of accountability than ever before at both the state and federal levels. And whereas the members of the Woodbridge Board of Education represent an invaluable resource in this community as local decision makers responding to the challenges of assuming our school meets these high standards, and these school board members must formulate policies to assure that all children learn to their fullest potential. And whereas these board members continually strive for improvement and progress with an understanding of the need for commitment to the highest standards of student achievement, and are working diligently to assure that our young people are educated and prepared for the future. And whereas the men and women elected to these positions deserve recognition and thanks for their countless hours of volunteer service to public education and the children of our community. Now, therefore, the Woodbridge Board of Selectmen and the Woodbridge School District thank all members of the Woodbridge Board of Education for their tireless and devoted services to our children, our schools, and our community, and urge all residents of our community to join us in expressing appreciation to these exemplary public servants, and hereby designate March 20th, 2023 as School Board Member Day, and signed this date by me and also Vonda, the superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys are wonderful.
Class. I'm going to jump around in my report to connect to your appreciation. There are a few things that I would like to share. And again, I've been here since mid-December, and I feel like I have a very large extended family with the students that I see, and the teachers and the administrators and the board members. It is an amazing place to be. So I just want to remind everybody that board members are volunteers. There is no pay. You offer your expertise and your time to help govern our district. Monthly meetings, subcommittee meetings, board retreats, professional learning workshops, ad hoc meetings, joint meetings with town committees, special budget meetings, hiring a new superintendent, preparing for meetings, all add up to, I would estimate this year that you had each individually donated over 100 hours. I did try to do the math of time to our school district, and that time generously donated is appreciated. It is time that is taken away from your families, your friends, your hobbies, your pets, your work, other volunteer organizations, and your own personal pursuits. Thank you for making the Woodbridge Board of Education a personal priority. You are appreciated. School boards are charged with making difficult decisions that can sometimes be quite challenging and often require sifting through a great deal of information. They provide governance and oversight to our district. Board members work to provide our students with the best learning opportunities possible while striving to be fair to our taxpayers. Through their dedication, leadership, and support of and collaboration with each other and school district staff, they are building the future of education for our current and future learners. Please take a moment this month to personally thank a board member for their service and for advocating for excellence in education for our students in Woodbridge. Publicly, I'd like to read and honor the name of each board member. Lynn Piazzik, Chair, Dr. Maria Madonna, Vice Chair, Sarah Beth Del Creek, Secretary, Dr. Jay Daya, Brooke Hopkins, Jeff Hughes, Stephen Lawrence, Dr. Michael Strandler, and Aaron Williamson. On behalf of our administrative team, we share a personal thank you card for each of you and a small token of appreciation. It's got a little bit of a Beecher flair. Additionally, it may be hard to see, I don't know if Anthony can zoom in or not, but our students of Beecher Road School have created a beautiful banner to honor all of your efforts. And the art teachers Linda Atchison and Lucille Gomes went, as everybody does at Beecher, way beyond expectations and should be commended for their effort and support of this artwork. And then finally, I would like to share a brief video from the Connecticut State Department of Education Commissioner Sarlene Russell Tucker, which was provided to all districts by the state of Connecticut. He's going to call it up for us. It's about a minute.
Hello, I'm Charlene Russell Tucker, Commissioner of Education for the state of Connecticut. I am pleased that this month, March, has been designated as Connecticut's Local Boards of Education Appreciation Month. I want to start off by thanking you, local board members, for everything you do to support our students and our educators. You have been instrumental in facilitating conversations between districts and your community, as well as relaying that information to us at the state level. We appreciate and value this feedback cycle. It takes the entire education ecosystem that includes all of our local boards of education to ensure that all of our students achieve success. District leaders, with your support, have balanced many priorities during the pandemic, and now we're collectively focused on supporting our students, staff, families, and communities in accelerating learning. We believe the sky is not the limit, what we can achieve. Working together, we will ensure a world-class public education for all of Connecticut's students. Thank you for your public service.
Let's start with UNESCO for 800.
Argentina and Uruguay were recognized for this dance, developed in Buenos Aires and Montevideo. Kelly,
Tango.
yes.
UNESCO for 1200.
Pastels, or human towers, are created by amateur groups at festivals in this Spanish region, Barcelona and Tarragona. Jake,
Was Catalonia,
you got it.
UNESCO 16.
2022, UNESCO honored this long French loaf of bread, the most popular kind eaten in France year-round. Jake,
What's it baguette?
Yeah.
UNESCO for 2.
UNESCO referred to the Duke as Armenian.
Hit.
What's clarinet?
Can you mute yourself? Thank you.
Okay. So I do have a few other superintendent comments, but I do, just want to take a moment. Sometimes you don't ever get to wake up to a round of applause. If you can each. Okay, to either children's laughter or the sound of applause, I think the world might be a bit happier. So this past Friday, the Connecticut State Department of Education did inform us that the reading waivers that were submitted by many districts in Connecticut, including Woodbridge, will be read by a third-party national organization group that is currently being contacted. We should have some feedback by mid-June, pending the fact that legislation is currently discussing postponing the entire thing to extend it in 1 year. So we're anticipating feedback by mid-June, and perhaps not surprised if that feedback slows down if the legislative body decides to pause for a year. It just might give us a little bit more time. The currently proposed legislative language would delay the implementation of any reading actions for 1 year, but would not change anything. It was, on the plus side, also shared by Commissioner Russell Tucker, that the state plans to offer a third round of the master class professional learning opportunity to districts is definitely being offered, and I continue to advocate to place Woodbridge at the top of that list for consideration. It is a professional learning model that requires administrators and superintendent to be part of it from every step of the way. And I am absolutely convinced that that level of leadership and involvement is part of what helps teachers see and model the professional learning and growth that our students deserve. So I will keep you posted on that. Just as an aside, I think that some parents and students definitely wonder what happens on a professional learning day when there's nobody in the school. And I want to comment that March 17th, Friday, was a professional learning day. And I want to publicly thank Lisa, Jimmy, Carrie, along with the Professional Development Committee, PETA, for their efforts to create a day of professional learning. It was solid. I observed Friday wherever I went exactly what you would hope to see. I saw teachers talking to each other in small groups. I saw them listening to each other. I saw them adding to each other's ideas and expanding on thoughts and asking questions about topics that matter to improving student learning. I heard laughter and I heard clapping, and that is exactly what I see in our classrooms. And I'm really proud that our teachers modeled that same behavior with each other that they're asking our students to do for them in their classrooms. The ad hoc committee, I know that somebody will touch on this. I just want to point out that we did have our first meeting and it has a very long name, so we are looking for shorter nicknames. Briefly, I just want to touch on the charge of the committee, which is one of the first steps of likely many. This committee will explore possible directions to address space issues by looking at options that include modifying our current space, perhaps modifying our current space and looking at new space, as well as exploring broader regional conversations. It's an exploration committee and findings will be shared at the regular board meeting in September. And again, more will come from our ad hoc committee. And finally, I just want to point out that these volunteers on this board are continuing to celebrate March Board of Education Month by spending more time together next week, 2 evenings from 6 to 9. The board will participate in a retreat held by Drs. Mary Broderick and Dr. Jack Reynolds from Katy. And our agenda is designed to help continue to build our capacity to collaboratively articulate our expectations and aspirations for Woodbridge, establish board goals, and define norms that support a high-performing governance team that will advance excellence in Woodbridge. This week, Kate sent out a survey to each board member seeking individual input on priorities and needs so that everybody's voice can be part of that agenda, and we look forward to this work. I just want to finally point out that I've worked in many districts for many years, and it is rare to find a Board of Education willing to demonstrate such a high level of commitment and expertise as this one.
Thank you, Vonda. Do we all feel like pumped up now? Your comments were much appreciated. On behalf of the board, I want to thank the art teachers, the students, and the entire administrative team for recognizing the board members tonight. Thanks.
And Marcia for trying to.
And Martha for all of that. It's amazing. Is there any questions from the board about this report?
I just had one.
Yeah, you don't need to unmute the microphone as long as you use your speaker voice.
Question on the new stuff that we submitted our waiver. And so how likely is the delay? So they said that they've given us 1 year. have they approved that 1 year, or are we still in the process of knowing more about that? Do we have any earmarks for funding? If this doesn't work out, those are the questions. Because I know the funding implications are gonna be substantial in what I heard prior to.
Okay, so we submitted the waiver. The options were submit a waiver, ask for an extension of 1 year, or purchase a program and go with it. So we submitted a waiver. If the waiver is accepted, we continue with our professional learning trajectory and continue to use our resources while still growing our capacity to meet the needs of all learners. If for some reason our waiver is not accepted, we then can ask for a 1 year extension. This is all separate from the legislative body talking about pushing all of that out in 1 more year. So. Not exactly. Yep, so it would, if the legislative body, I think it's likely that they will delay it a year. I would be more interested if they would delay it and create some sort of a panel of educated people to try to study a better way to shift professional learning. But I do believe, I have pretty high confidence that they might delay it a year, which gives us an entire year to start to think about where we're at. I would still love to know whether they're going to accept our waiver or not, though.
There's no contingencies yet built into
No.
what it's going to follow.
Nope, not yet.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, moving on. Beecher Road School update. Ms. Sherman. Bringing a friend today. Oh, and Mr. Sabia.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity here to speak, and I will echo all the same sentiments. Thank you so much for everything you do for our community. It's so appreciated, and to have your backing is part of what makes this machine work. So thank you all so much for everything. I'm here to speak a little bit about responsive classroom and give you an overarching review of what responsive classroom is and how it looks here at Beecher Road School. So, you know, we're fortunate in our building that we have a large amount of staff that's trained, and we still have some more that do need to be trained, but we do have an in-house representative, our grade 2 teacher, Joe De Palma, who, you know, is an integral part of the responsive classroom implementation. He does work with new teacher orientation. We weave his expertise into various staff meetings throughout the school year to kind of keep it living and breathing. And so, you know, that's one way that we're able to keep responsive classroom going with our in-house people. Just an understanding of what it is, right? It's this community building piece. It's this idea that we're establishing kind of calm, orderly, and a safe environment for learning. And it has that development of self-control, the self-discipline, really helping our students become responsible members of our community to develop those healthy student-to-student relationships, student-to-teacher relationships for all. You know, one of my favorite aspects of it is the morning meeting component, and it's really that sacred time that the teachers have, and it looks different depending on the grade level, but to be able to walk into a classroom and watch and observe and even participate in the morning meetings with the greetings and the sharing and the activities, you know, we see firsthand how powerful that is for the community to set the days up for a positive trajectory. Lisa and I actually had an opportunity a couple of weeks back to join in on a 4th grade morning meeting, and it was just, I mean, it was the highlight of our day, to be quite honest with you. It was so wonderful. And so, you know, those components are already in place, and kind of looking ahead to our strategic plan. One of the 3 main tenets is building the diverse and healthy alliances. So it's really responsive classroom in addition to building the healthy alliances and creating safe, inclusive environments that really shows appreciation for all is something that they naturally really lends itself to a responsive classroom. So thank you so much, and Lisa. Okay, you too. Thank you.
All right, just a few more quick updates for you. you know already, hopefully, that report card was recently issued, and soon parent-teacher conferences will be coming up. So I hope that you take the opportunity to sign up for conferences, to all of our parents out there, those sitting around the table. I also want to touch upon Women's History Month, because that is something that we are focusing on during this month of March. Much like Black History Month, in addition to the work that the teachers are doing within their classroom, there have been some school-wide opportunities that students have been able to engage in. For example, they got to learn about Jane Addams, who was the first woman to be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. And they also got to learn about an artist named Yayoi Kusama. She is most famous for putting dots on everything. There's actually a really beautiful picture book called Yayoi Kusama Covered Everything in Dots. And she is most famous for the pumpkin. You may have seen the pumpkin art installation with dots all over it. So those are two famous women that they've got to hear about. They've also gotten fun facts over the morning announcements. We took our Black History Month display and we turned it into Women's History Month by adding parts to all of the women so that the students can sort of continue interacting with that display as well. And more will be forthcoming as March continues. Vonda already mentioned our full day PD, but I want to give another shout out not only to our professional development committee, but also to Tom Huntington. We did have a consultant from ACES come, and she taught all of our staff she provided some amazing, not Tom, but the consultants from ACES provided all of our staff with some amazing professional learning around working with multi-language learners. And the best part about the PD, beyond the fact that we all got to laugh and learn and grow together, was that the skills and the lessons and the activities and the conversations that we were having is applicable not only to our students who come from a multi-language learner background. I always get stuck on my tongue, but also really applicable for all of our students. I mean, there was just some really awesome practical teaching strategies that our teachers can apply, the very next day or Monday. So it was really, really powerful learning, and a big shout out to Tom for that. And the other half of our day we spent around looking at diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is a topic that we have spent a lot of time focusing on the last couple of years, and we had the opportunity on Friday to look again at our board policy and have some conversations around case studies. There were some really rich conversations happening during that part of the day. Finally, board members, I have something really important to tell you. We apparently have a problem in our building where there are leprechauns in our classrooms, and they are causing a ruckus. There has been green glitter all over the kindergarten classrooms. They have caused a ruckus with the rainbows that are hanging on the bulletin boards, and they also left green footprints all over the classrooms. So I just felt it was my responsibility as the building principal to let you know that our kindergarten friends tried really, really hard to catch the leprechauns. They made these amazing traps, and there was gold, and there was like green clovers, and there was Lucky Charms, but our youngest learners did not catch the leprechauns, so they may be running loose in Beecher. So I just felt I should let you know that for it.
We'll report that to the facilities. Yeah.
Yeah, the kindergarten students, I will say, in addition to just being absolutely adorable, the kindergarten students got to really practice their speaking and their listening when they presented their leprechaun traps to their friends. And they had the opportunity to sort of talk about why did they pick gold coins and why did they choose Lucky Charms? And I mean, they outdid themselves. So it's really quite adorable. It's one of our favorite things. Jimmy and I, admittedly, Friday before we left, we may have wandered into every single kindergarten classroom to look at all of them because they are just adorable. And there really were green footprints today, but they didn't catch any. So, any questions?
Lisa, Jane, Jimmy.
Jimmy.
I just wondered if you could say a little bit about the connection between any of the diversity, equity, inclusion efforts and the responsive classroom efforts, two of the things you talked about today. Could you say a little bit more about those two?
I see one avenue when I'm a big believer in the use of picture books, like in picture books that tell stories, but also picture books that have an opportunity for others, what I call windows and mirrors. And, them to be able to, see themselves in other characters, but also see other types of characters within the context of these picture books, right? So they can grow that, appreciation and understanding of sort of the world kind of outside of their bubble, so to speak. And, I really think that, that's one way, right? One way that picture books allow us to be able to, sort of meet the responsive classroom lens of kind of like the DEI lens, the acceptance piece lens.
And, responsive classroom is really all about building the classroom community, which comes from knowing your students deeply. And the morning meeting piece that Jimmy talked about is so crucial to that process, because that is the opportunity where the class comes together. They greet each other, they do a fun activity, they share. And this is where the teacher and the class and the students, they just really get to know one another. And they build that foundational relationship to move their learning and their work forward. And I just think that in that process, naturally, organically, they get to hear about things. They get to hear about the student who, traveled to Pakistan for over the holidays because they have family over in Pakistan and they wanted to celebrate with their families. And they get to hear about the family that, didn't get to go anywhere because they don't have enough money to do that. And they get to hear about all the different parts of who their friends are in their classroom community. And I think that then lends itself to some of what Jimmy is saying, where that is where the teacher can pull in a picture book and sort of continue on with the conversation that might be happening. So I just think responsive classroom to me is so much about growing together as a learning community. And, we talk about that a lot here at Future, is the learning communities that we're working to create. And responsive classroom is just the basis for that, which I think just ties so beautifully into DEI work, this organically, just all the things that kids say and they say things all the time, right? They tell stories, they want to tell us about their lives and about their adventures, and and that sort of allows for conversations to happen.
And it's inclusive by nature,
Right.
Because
of who we have, because of who they are.
it empowers all students to share their voice. And it's incredible, at the onset of the year, kids are feeling each other out, but as you grow that community over time to where the teacher sets up that ecosystem where the kids feel comfortable, their voices get amplified. And that type of amplification really does go a long way with that inclusion and that community piece.
And they also start to learn about, the students will eventually notice when so-and-so leaves the room at a specific time to go work with another teacher, and or so-and-so has a little bit of a hard time keeping their hands to themselves. And responsive classroom allows the class to come together and talk about that in a really engaging and developmentally appropriate way. And how what one person needs is different than what you need. Like what I need when I'm reading a book is like quiet. When my husband reads a book, he has like 3 screens and like a podcast going and he's reading, and I like can't, what I mean? But like that allows for the teacher to sort of talk about that, and for the kids to say to a teacher, you know what, I actually need a quiet space to do my work, and for the teacher and the student to have that conversation and work that out. And another student visits another classroom to help with their reading. And so it's all about building that classroom community and sort of going from there, which is really what responsive classroom starts with from like day.
I guess, given that responsive classroom is so much about building community, how about the new teachers who are coming in, or new staff that are coming in who have not been having the exposure to responsive classroom? Is Mr. De Palma the one who's usually responsible for bringing them on board and getting them up to speed?
That's a really good question. So responsive classroom offers a full week-long training that our new teachers have not attended the full week-long training yet. However, Mr. De Palma always does, as part of our new teacher orientation, new staff, new teacher. So all of our new staff, they all get I don't want to say a crash course, but it's a little bit of a crash course in responsive classroom philosophy, tenets, practices, because morning meeting is a piece of it, but it's much more than just that. So Mr. De Palma does do that. They've done that. Mr. Halsey used to do it for us. So that's been something that we have done since as long as I've been here. And then additionally, throughout the year, like Mr. Sapia mentioned, we touch on it throughout the school year in different ways. I send out staff updates that Mr. Sapia and Ms. do. And a lot of times we'll throw in articles or pieces of information. A lot of times it's responsive classroom articles for teachers to read. So there's sort of some embedded PD throughout the year. And then we recently had a faculty, Mr. Sapia ran that Mr. De Palma was a part of, to sort of do some training at a specific faculty meeting. And we do that periodically throughout the year. So it's sort of interwoven throughout our school year as part of our faculty meetings and professional development days, in addition to the new staff orientation. And then I'm the kind of principal that makes them do some of the morning meeting readings and activities. I think I've talked about this before. So at our Friday meeting, morning meeting, you start with a greeting, an activity, and a share. During our Friday, so I start every faculty meeting with those things. And so I get to model some of the things that we want them to try in their classrooms. And so we just did at our Friday PD, we did a activity and a greeting that had all the teachers tiptoeing and high-fiving and sharing something. So it was, sometimes they like to complain about it, but they're all smiling when they're doing it. So, and I always share out whatever I've done. So some of the activities I've done, I've sent it to them to be like, here's one that you could do in your classroom. So it's a nice way to sort of model and show the teachers what we want them to continue to do with their students. And I will say that I have had teachers ask me, like, oh, can you send me that activity? And I forget. Where did you find that? So that's also nice too. So it's kind of embedded. That's another way that's sort of embedded in the work that we do as a
Anything else? Thank you so much. Thank you both. 3C, upcoming meeting presentations, summer program plans. April's board meeting will include presentation on summer program plans. So if board members would like to see anything specific addressed in that presentation, if you would reach out to Vonda, he'll make sure that it's included in next month's presentation on our summer programming. Next on the agenda is the town building committee for Beach Road School capital projects update. Mr. Hughes.
Sure. The town building committee met March 17th, where we had a draft form of an RFP with our architectural engineering firm for design services for the upgrades. So we're still in draft form, but it's a very productive meeting. We're hoping to get the final proposal out hopefully soon. Hopefully as soon as this week for another meeting. I expect to have more to report out by then, but things are in the right direction with the RFP.
Any questions?
Sure, I want to put in our big for state funding.
No, there's not. I mean, ideally to get. If you want the stuff that has to go before the state legislature, I think want to apply by June. For the roof, you can go anytime. They review every month, like get it in by the 10th of the month. If you would do that month.
I'm gonna send around this for you.
Yeah. As long as you haven't done something in the past 20 years or whatever, you're gonna get approved. For something that's a code violation like the roof or asbestos.
Any other questions? Okay. Facilities committee. That's you too, Jeff.
Thank you. Facilities met on March 2nd. Vito did his usual report, which did some awesome fixes and upgrades. There's LED outside lighting upgrade. If you're driving by feature at night, you can actually see much brighter. They all match. It's a big improvement. Various HVAC upgrades and fixes, valve actuators, shaft bearings, dampers. We added a custom door over windows, another big upgrade. In process is the roof leak. Still catching water with buckets. There is the electrical conduit that's attached to the roof. Vito is currently working on the bracket holding it need to be replaced. And also we learned about Vito's program that we're calling a cleaning optimization program, which is awesome. It's basically like a time study of the custodial staff and what they're doing and should be doing. It really lays out in detail, basically like a time efficiency study. It's awesome, awesome tool. I repeat myself by saying Vito is on it, to say the least, so it's doing a great job with that. And I think you go to the show for it.
Any questions on that report? I will,
I would second and check the same. It's just right on people that. I sit, it's like an independent on this. I listen to everything and I just see all those tickets going down all the time. One part that's always bothered me is the water and the electric bill mix. And so I think Vito's been excellent about coming in to patch that. This is my question, when can we get that roof up and fixed? I think it's before it sort of causes more structural problems and we run into a greater cost to the town. So I think here the most responsible thing is to get that process going a little faster.
Fully agree, yes.
Get to the state, let's get it fixed. I wouldn't like to open that up and suddenly find a lot more work needs to be done.
thank you for
Yeah.
that comment, Jim.
That's awesome. How much, and to Jake's point, the roof, replacement is for D and K wings. This is not the whole roof. I don't like to make that known, so as time progresses. As time progresses, the rest of the roof is aging as well. So just keep that in mind, it's not a full replacement. So yeah, to Jake's point, we need to get this going.
So thank you for that, and thank you for, Jeff, for acknowledging Vito, who we all think is amazing. I would just like to announce to the board the happy news that, Valentino Paul Esparro, Tino, arrived on Saturday night at 9:10 p.m. And so Vito is the happy dad of two beautiful boys now. He and Amanda, our second grade teacher, have grown their family and he's appears to be beautiful. And so we send congratulations to both of them. And our thanks always to Vito for being on time. Finance Committee.
All right, so this is of course all thanks to Donna. So on top of this, and scripts me very well. So as to not bury the lead, our total projected savings combined for all categories at this moment is currently estimated at 81,000. So we are in the black. Highlights include on the lower expense side of the ledger in the 100 series, in case you're looking at the numbers. The district is still experiencing a salary savings of around 300,000 due to staff turnover and vacancies. In the 200 series, benefits are running on track, that is close to budget. And in the 900 series, miscellaneous expense is forecasted to have a $14,000 savings due to the ESSER nerds coming in less than budgeted. On the higher expense side of the ledger, the 300 series purchase professional services are forecast to be about $90,000 over budget, mostly due to substitutes. We're using more day-to-day subs as we are not using as many interns. In the 400 series, purchase property services is forecasted to end up about $17,000 over budget due to natural gas costs and the unbudgeted HVAC audit required by the state. This is an unfunded mandate. In the 500 series, other purchase services are currently running $124,000 over budget due to additional outplaced tuition and special education and transportation costs. And finally, in the 600 series, materials and supplies are running about $5,000 over in total due to the purchase of some unbudgeted security supplies.
Great. Any questions about that?
I just have one general comment on one of the statements that was made in the summary. So we're contracting out, so OTPT, we're contracting out student evaluations and contracting for behavioral technicians as well. Am I right?
What was it first thing you said? Yes.
Student evaluations. I believe that's in
Some,
social education.
yes.
Right, so what I noticed is that I was looking, have we ever done a study on what the comparisons are on how many students a particular evaluator has? And Have we ever looked at those numbers ever? Have they ever been presented to the board? So, for example, if I'm an evaluator, within the school, I evaluate 40 kids a year. We ever looked at those numbers? Because I'd like to see why we're going out for contracting. That surprises me a little bit, given we've added, psychologists and we've added evaluators. Okay.
Speaking, that person's evaluations, they contracted them. We increase the evaluation.
So that's the primary explanation. Okay, then, that's perfect. And I believe the behavioral technicians, they're switching. Is it the interns for those? Is that the way it works, or is it?
Para-educator.
Paras.
That's
Paras.
Saving money in the intern line, but we're kind of, we haven't made the transfer, but eventually we're kind of applying it to the overage and stuff.
The only other thing I noticed was the cycling with seniors, that seems to be up again for some reason. I don't know why that's running at a deficit. Now, the medical insurance, did that include the money that the town had promised the board last year on last year's budget, or was that a separate line?
This is the way it was budgeted, so I'm familiar with.
So I believe what happened in the last past budget, you know, to confirm this from Tony probably at the town hall, is that we chose not as a board, we decided not to move to a new insurance carrier. And so the town brought subsidized some of the cost for us. And so was that built into this, or was it?
I have a feeling it was probably built in from the get-go, that we're not expecting any additional transfer or anything, but based on what they projected, we're doing okay. You know, a staff come in and out, you know, we base it on the elections of last year's staff, but there's always a little bit of differences with the new year staff. So perhaps some of those went in our favor because they do look like, in terms of that we are budget.
And the last question I had is, it's a general one. So I don't know whether a school choice was discussed again about the cost implications. And I went back and looked at the board meeting for February. One of the things I noticed was a lot of numbers were banded around. Is there any way we can get those numbers presented to us? For example, how much the full bill was, what it was for in general categories, if we could see that as board members, and to see what aspects were reimbursed of that particular bill, and to see what the cost was on a full cost basis versus an incremental cost basis, for example. And last but not least, something that puzzled me a little bit was at that board meeting. Fortunately, I was sick that time, I couldn't be here. One thing I heard is that I think Donna, it was you that mentioned that other districts like East Hartford were making their payments, and we don't have students from East Hartford. So could we go and find out who else uses school choice for new payment, and then ask them how they are reimbursed? Because that would be a life. Could we do that and get that sort of data? Would that be
Some of that.
okay? That would be excellent to see that data. Would be excellent. Thank you so much.
Anyone else? Questions? Okay. 3B, ad hoc enrollment, instructional needs and space planning committee report. Maria? Thank you. We had our first meeting of the ad hoc committee, and we all went around the table. We had a chance to introduce ourselves. We had members from the community, members for teachers, administrators, and board members. We had a chance to go over our charge, and we had a chance to go over the pockets of work that we're going to be investigating going forward in order to make our recommendations at the end. We are working on some guest speakers, talking to some districts that have already done some of this work, so they can come and talk to us about our process. And our next meeting is going to be March 29th. In this room. Any questions about that?
We're bringing parents over to school.
There's a community member.
So there are no parents directly at the school.
No. That's the charge that we had voted on, we created the committee.
Directly with parents. The standing members there said was parents.
The board members are also parents, yeah.
No, misunderstood, right?
And this is more of a committee, and I hear your point too, Jay, but I think this is also a committee to sort of investigate some of the alliances that we can form with other districts, look at the building the way it is and the use of the building from that perspective. So this committee is not necessarily going to be a decision. It's just going to make some recommendations going forward for what a building committee should look at and what the town should look at for the future of our district.
Thank you.
Anything else? Cable liaison report? Okay, we're ready. Sure, Kate has board member appreciation month this month. There is also a save the date for the Cave Cats Conference for 2023. It's gonna be November 17th through 18th this year. And just a reminder, Cave has opened up in their library for free some of the webinars that they've had, and they're some pretty informative webinars. So it's a chance to peek in those. Thank you.
Did you say December 17th?
November 17th to 18th, and I believe that means that the delegate assembly will be the night of the 16th. The Thursday night before. Did you mark the calendar, Sarah Beth? Sarah Beth's been so good about being our delegate in the past. Okay, new business, adopt 2023-2024 healthy food certification. Do you have anything you want to say about that? This is something we need to do every year. So
I would just ask that whoever read the motion, read it loud and clear, because it's specific.
yeah, and exactly, because one year I remember we didn't read it exact, and then we had to go back the next month to read it again correctly. Because the state is is really a stickler about this. So do you want to be the healthy food certification motion maker? Sure. I moved that the Woodbridge Board of Education will allow the sale to students of food items that do not meet the Connecticut nutrition standards and beverages not listed in section 10-221Q of the Connecticut General Statute. We have to start with healthy food certification, that one first. Sorry, rewind, go ahead. I jumped ahead. The healthy food certification, I moved that pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 10-2 L5F, the Woodbridge Board of Education certifies that all food items offered for sale in the schools under its jurisdiction and not exempted from the Connecticut nutrition standards by the Connecticut State Department of Education will comply with the Connecticut nutrition standards during the period of July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. This certification shall include all food offered for sale to students separately from reimbursable meals at all times and from all sources, including but not limited to school stores, vending machines, school cafeterias, culinary programs, and any fundraising activities on school premises sponsored by the school or non-school organizations. I have a second to that. Very long. Jeff, motion, and can you repeat it, Jeff? Okay. I was in favor. I just have an amendment. The Connecticut General Statute is 10-21-5F. I think I might have read those. I just wanted, okay. Clarified motion, second clarified, all Those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. It's unanimous, Marcia. The motion was made by Maria Madonna, seconded by Jeff Hughes. Now we'll move on to the food beverage certification.
I move that the Woodbridge Board of Education will allow the sale to students of food items that do not meet the Connecticut nutrition standards and beverages not listed in section 10-221Q of the Connecticut General Statutes, provided that the following conditions are met. One, the sale is in connection with an event occurring after the end of the regular school day or on the weekend. Two, the sale is at the location of the event. And three, the food and beverage items are not sold from a vending machine or school store. An event, quote, is an occurrence that involves more than just a regularly scheduled practice, meeting, or extracurricular activity. For example, soccer games, school plays, and interscholastic debates are events, but soccer practices, play rehearsals, and debate team meetings are not. The regular school day is the period from midnight before to 30 minutes after the end of the official school day. Location means where the event is being held and must be the same place as the food and beverage sales.
Do I have a second to that motion? Brooke? Motion made by Maria Madonna, seconded by Brooke Hopkins. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. It's unanimous, Marcia. Thank you. So my apologies to the board. I didn't ask for discussion about any of those motions, but I think it's pretty cut and dry. My monthly community service announcement. The Enrollment-Instructional Needs and Space Planning Ad Hoc Committee will meet on Wednesday, March 29th at 4:30, as Maria mentioned. The Policy Committee is scheduled to meet on Wednesday, April 5th at 4:30. The Curriculum Committee is scheduled to meet on Thursday, April 6th at 4 o'clock. The Finance Committee will meet on Tuesday, April 18th, which is different than our regularly scheduled monthly Finance Committee meetings because of spring break. So it's now Tuesday, April 18th at 6 o'clock p.m., just prior to our monthly Board of Education meeting. And the town preliminary budget hearing will be held in the Amity High School auditorium on Monday, April 17th at 7:30 p.m. And that means that our next regularly scheduled Board of Education meeting will be held on Tuesday, since the town preliminary budget meeting is on Monday, Tuesday, April 18th at 7 p.m. Board members are reminded that the board will hold a board governance team retreat that will be conducted in 2 parts, as Vonda mentioned. Please make certain that your calendar is marked for Tuesday, March 28th and Thursday, March 30th from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Each board member has received an email from Mary Broderick requesting that you complete the brief survey. And so I'm going to ask that you please make sure that you send that off by Wednesday so that Mary and Jack can prepare for our time together. And then you should be receiving an agenda after. Also, a reminder to board members that the Freedom of Information Workshop sponsored by the town is scheduled for tomorrow from 5 to 6 p.m. in the Town Hall main meeting room. Please respond directly to Town Clerk Stephanie Charlake if you have not yet done so. I'd also like to just take a moment to extend thanks to Anthony Billings, our IT person, who has stepped up the game for our meeting technology. You will note no one said, Lynn, you are muted tonight. And I thank you really for all your efforts in making this work so nicely. Thank you, Anthony. Another gem in our school district. We have wonderful, wonderful people working here. Public comment. Go back to our second public comment of the evening. I'm looking for anyone who has their hand raised. I do not see anyone. Okay, we don't see anyone, so we will move on to executive session. The board will enter into executive session in accordance with state statute for the purpose of discussing potential claims and litigation. For the public's information, no action is expected following the executive session other than to adjourn the meeting. I need a motion to go into executive session, inviting Superintendent Von Potenza and Director of Business Services and Operations, Donna Koenig. Have that motion, Jay? And do I have a second? Brooke? All those in favor? That's unanimous. Sarah Beth, Bond will send you a.
I'll send you a Google Meet.
For executive session. Thank you, and those out in TV land, thank you for watching tonight. Happy spring.